Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations. Okay, hello, welcome. Another episode, another iteration of the Simulationist podcast. This is number 78. We're recording this on the 2nd of March, 2014. We've just finished a wonderful, fantastic weekend of GottaCon. My name is Josh Trelevin, and with me I have my regular, always eternal, continual, forever
co-host. But this time I am not Ryan Kirkby, according to the GottaCon pass I got. First time around, I was Brian Holden.
Okay, so Brian, if you're out there, Ryan got your pass.
Yeah, if things got messed up and you weren't able to get in, I am sorry, but I mean, I paid the $45 for the pre thing. I don't know why they registered me as Brian Holden, but then when they fixed it, I was Brian Kirkby, not Ryan. So, you know, when I was doing the silent auction, I had to write my name down as Brian all the time, just because it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't match your lanyard.
Basically, you're telling me you stole some guy's identity.
I stole half of some guy's identity. I took his first name, but I kept my surname.
No, he was role-playing. He was just LARPing the entire convention.
Yeah, role-playing, yeah.
And that third voice over there is Jason Kirkby.
Yeah, I slipped up and said guest because we do have a guest, and he is Jason Kirkby, who some of you, if you have been listening for a long time, you'll remember. He's Ryan's brother. And so, how are you, Jason?
I'm doing well. I also went to GottaCon with Brian.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. They got my name right.
They got your name right, okay.
Yeah, everything else went very smoothly, except I don't know why I was Brian Holden for a little bit there.
Although there was that weird thing that we all, a bunch of us, went to the same convention. For some reason, we never met up at the convention, not till after, basically.
Well, I mean, it did move down to the proper convention center on the back of the Empress, and it is a much larger location than it has been in previous years.
Yeah, you might call it labyrinthine, even.
Well, it was 2 stories, and that was pretty nice.
I didn't see it at the old location, but I had been to that old location.
Yes.
I went with Ren, and I really liked the location this year. Having nothing to really compare it with, having not been there in previous years, I just thought this location worked out pretty well, except sometimes having to go from one indoor area to another indoor area when it was raining. It wasn't a lot of outdoor walking, but you got a little bit of sprinkle on you. Otherwise, pretty awesome.
Yeah, they had a proper gaming lounge and everything, though, like with 19 plus only, you can have your drinks. That was kind of interesting. I didn't manage to make it in there. The one night I was there late and wasn't busy, I had my daughter with me, and she was not 19 years or older until sometime in the early 2030s. So without the use of time travel, I just couldn't go in.
Yeah, well, I never had a reason to go in there either.
It did look mighty nice from what I saw.
Well, look, okay, well, I guess I missed that aspect of it.
I got a chance to go in. That was right after they had the costume party after the costume contest. So there was some good costumes in there. I think my favorite was the Batman one. You only saw one small part of his face, but that part of his face looked good. And, of course, the rest of the costumes sold
but then it boils back to the whole argument of whether or not Ben Affleck is going to make a good Batman, because all you need is a white guy with a strong jawline, and that's Batman.
Yeah. Why does he have to be white?
Because Batman's white, so...
He doesn't have to be white, but
no.
We don't have to have...
That's the thing, is for a while in the comics, I thought the official, proper future history they were going to have for Batman, the next Batman was black. I got that wrong in the end, so, And then it got changed because of Batman Beyond. It's Terry McGinnis for the official future. Honestly, he makes a mighty decent Batman, for the whole thing, so I'm willing to grant that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you don't need to be white to be Batman. And if the Fantastic Four movie goes through well, with the I believe it's supposed to be Johnny Storm is adopted, or it's a mixed race group. I'm not certain what the final say on that is going to be, but yes, Johnny Storm will be black in that movie, and if it plays out well, I'm sure it'll help open up the whole frontier of film industry to more heroic characters who just don't happen to be white bread.
Well, sure. It drives the wedge in further. I think the wedge has already been started in a lot of ways, but it's got further to go, and I hope they do.
Hollywood has a bad history of whitewashing when they would take a person who is not white and replace it with a white person. This is the counter to that, in which case it's just adding different... Honestly, my personal belief to the whole thing is that it shouldn't matter the color of the person so long as they get the character of it right.
Okay.
So long...
Nick Fury was... In some games, he's a white guy. In others, in the movies, he's Samuel L. Jackson. The
original Nick Fury from the 616 Marvel Universe, the traditional one, he has been a grizzled old white man from the spy in World War II era. The Ultimate Universe, they specifically had it be Samuel L. Jackson look-alike. So in the movies, we can make it be
old black guy instead.
And then that
is he grizzled? Yeah, he's kind of grizzled.
He's kind of grizzled, but not quite as old. Really. But he proved to be so popular, they've replaced him in the Marvel Universe with he just happens to have a son who just looks like Samuel L. Jackson. He never bothered to mention it because it keeps him out of the line of danger. If people know Nick Fury has a son, they're going to try and abduct Nick Fury's son to get at Nick Fury. So, either have your kid not know your dad properly, for most of life, or you keep him under heavy protection all his life. The original Nick Fury took the easier option, the better option, I think. Yeah. But now Nick Fury Jr. is replaced him. So across most known universes for Marvel.
All right. There's your thoughts for the week on race in comics from three white dudes. For what it's worth. So
that's the thing is
so diverse.
Well, when I'm playing a game, sort of thing, I'm making up a superhero character, I think to myself, it's like, what if this was a movie? Who would play it? And then it keeps occurring to me, it really doesn't matter so long as they have the right characteristics. Like, I want a person who really, shows their emotions, up on the face. So who's got a really good, like they really wear the smile. When they grin, it goes all over their face, and you just see the beaming smile.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter how, what darkness they are on the scale of
precisely
how dark their skin is.
And so the whole thing, in my mind, it winds up being like, I guess it'll be, this ethnic background because this is the person I see playing it, and they're the person that has the characteristics I deem. But if it did become a movie, it wouldn't matter who was cast, so long as they have the right characteristics and are able to play the right mentality of the character.
Yeah. Although I will say, sometimes you do historical type of stuff, like if you do something set in the Civil War, you kind of need the black people to be played by black actors and the white people to be played by white actors, for the historical thing.
Although if you really do want to try and do an avant-garde thing, you switch the roles up and see how people's attitudes change to the whole thing.
That would be interesting.
Interesting, but very controversial. You're not likely to see something like that happen in Hollywood anytime soon.
No.
I don't think, I probably wouldn't experiment with that myself. Maybe just because I don't know enough about it. I've read Wikipedia, but that's about...
You need someone who's really got a firm concept of who the characters that they're using are, the historical characters.
Yeah, it's a good idea, but you'd need to know how to do it well, because there's a lot of ways you could do it wrong.
Oh, yeah, you need the right actor, the right script people. You need everything firing in the right line all at once to make it happen.
So GottaCon?
Yes. Oh, but first we have a little bit of fiction-based news.
Oh, more sad news?
Yes, sad news. The passing of Harold Ramis this week.
We don't know how old he was.
He was in his
69.
Late 60s.
Okay, so that's too young. But he did a lot of cool things.
Well, see, that's the thing. I haven't heard how he died. So was it a health-based thing? Was it pure accident?
I think it was health-based. Not entirely sure, but that's what I seem to remember hearing.
Well, if you're listening to us on your computer device, you also have a website at your disposal, so I'm sure you can look it up faster than we can.
Well, see, that's the thing, is I checked several news stories about it when it first broke, and nobody mentioned the cause of death.
And our tertiary second guest here, the third brother Kirkby, Adam, who has decided to remain silent, has looked up and found that Harold Ramis' cause of death was infection of a blood vessel.
Ah.
So
Pure random happenstance sort of thing.
But
harsh.
Still.
But yes, those of you who don't necessarily recognize the name, he did play Egon in the Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah.
He was
Egon
the director.
Ghostbusters.
He was the director for Groundhog Day, which everybody should watch. I mean, Groundhog Day itself is something that's great to watch sober, wonderful to watch a second or even a third time. And if you're stoned, oh God, boy, you can come up with so many ideas as to what's going on there. And that'll occupy you until you're back and sober again.
Even sober-minded, it's just an interesting movie to think about.
It's definitely...
That's another topic for another podcast.
Yeah, we could do a whole episode on Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's so different. It inspires you to think about it. It's not just like, oh, it's another horror movie going on. There's a killer. What? Why is the killer there? I don't care. There's teens making out at a camp. He kills them. The end. No, this was something very...
It didn't happen in Groundhog Day.
No, but because Groundhog Day was
could have.
well,
one of those
maybe
days.
one of those days, yeah.
Flip around the horror movie genre. You have a psycho going around making out with homicidal teens. No, it doesn't work.
I'd give that a chance.
I'd watch it. Don't know if I'd pay money to see it.
It's a renter.
That Groundhog Day gets referenced a lot for a lot of different sort of purposes because it's got those ideas that everyone finds interesting and likes to talk about.
It's time loops without having to worry about time travel.
Yeah.
So it really has a nice clean, fourth dimensional time, silly putty mentality going about where you can really work your theories around as to how it was going.
Well, I mean, technically it is a paradox because how did he get out of it? Just sort of randomly, it's Deus Ex Machina, I guess. Just randomly, he became happy, therefore he fell in love, or... He
found true love. It might be that you can argue that the power of true love. Or it could be that he had the power to make time relive itself. And it wasn't until he died the first time that he triggered a mental setback that was keeping him going through his final day. And in which case, it wasn't until...
He didn't die in the first time that he went back, though. The first time was just a day that happened, and he woke up the next day, and it just happened to be the exact same day.
Well, in this case, I'm going to use that as just, a thing, where, say he died, it was his final day sort of thing. I'm just adding a little extra onto there for a pet theory.
No, it was the worst day of his life, right? That's what...
Effectively, yeah. Oh, you can argue it that way, I think, is maybe a little easier to work with. It was such a horrible day, he triggered this mental power he never knew he had, and he gets stuck into it because, he's never used this mental muscle before. He gets stuck in the I'm looping through the same day time and time again, and it isn't until he finds true happiness and is able to relax himself properly with this love.
He can unclench his time sphincter.
Yeah.
For lack of a better muscular term, before he can relax the time sphincter and just let it flow normally.
And that's my contribution for this podcast.
So and that's just one theory. It's one of the ones that you just want to sit down and think. And that's why I think Harold Ramis did more than most people recognize. Because, I mean...
he directed that.
He was doing stuff on the Second City crew years before any of us were born. In the late 70s, he was part of Second City TV and all that sort of thing. The Second City crew.
Is that what SCTV stands for?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Something new.
Yeah, he was part of the Second City troupe. He was doing good stand-up comedy, and he was helping make stuff happen before we were alive. And so he's just... He has helped inspire... so many things like the first seasons of Saturday Night Live. Why were they such a success? Because of him and people like him. How did they get the people like him? We had him to help support. He was the kind of guy who wasn't, concerned about getting the best line in the scene. He was just concerned of writing the good scene. Whoever gets the line and whatever.
Oh, that's a good principle to take away. Yeah.
So he was
even up to the end. He was still very active, just even mentoring a lot apparently in the film.
So he was the kind of guy that helps let just a whole genre of comedy flourish. That's why I think everybody should be very disheartened that he has passed away, because you won't really feel the effects of what has been lost until a couple of years, and you go, why isn't there any good comedies coming out? Why does it seem there's so
still lots of people doing good
I already
comedy, don't
say
worry.
that.
But
But will it be as
more-
rich a
one
comedy
more
as the
line.
stuff he's been able to produce and help foster over the years?
Yeah, one more valuable person. Yeah, and
So yeah, as all of us are diminished, I believe, by his loss, much more tangibly than the average person, because the bell tolls for thee, the loss of one diminishes us all.
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that's the sad news this week. On the other hand, use this as an excuse to go watch his stuff. Go watch Groundhog Day. Go watch the Ghostbusters movies. Go look up his body of work. Find a movie you've never seen and watch it. Make it a thing.
Yeah, that's cool. In other news, there is no other. We went to GottaCon.
Yeah.
No other news.
We're in Victoria, BC, so that's what basically is still on our mind.
The air quotes normal people this weekend were doing the Be a Visitor in Your Hometown. And so they were going to places like Miniature World and Craigdarroch Castle, which are great places, but they don't have gaming conventions in them this week. So we didn't go there. So we focused we were focused with the nerds this week at GottaCon.
Hopefully we have normal people among our audience who may have missed GottaCon, but maybe if you keep listening, you'll become a little bit more weird like us, and in the next year or so, you'll be more inclined to go to maybe GottaCon, or if you're not in Victoria, find your local convention.
Which is not to say, that Be a Visitor in Your own hometown isn't a good thing. I mean, I've done that with my wife. And we had a blast that weekend. We went places, saw things we'd otherwise normally just put off till later. And it was great to get out and actually explore my new hometown at the time.
Jeez, I should do that in Vancouver. I think it wasn't until like the 5th year after I'd moved out to Vancouver I went to Stanley Park.
That's the thing. It's
It's like one of the major places. You just go, hang out, check it out.
Did you wait till after the windstorm to blow down all the big trees so it didn't scare you so much?
I think it was before that.
Oh, so you got to see the big scary trees.
insinuating I'm scared by trees?
Yes, I am. And you fell for it.
Damn it.
Point one for me.
You win this round.
But yes, it's a great convention at the new location. So I think I learned a lot. I got a chance to experience a lot. I think you two gentlemen did as well. So let's start off with what we did and what we got out from it this weekend.
I think the part that was the best for me was when Ryan and I signed up for not a playtest, but just playing a session of D&D Next, the upcoming 5th edition of D&D that they're still, I think.
No, it's not the most up to date one sort of stuff. They are still doing things now that they're in the closed alpha.
Okay.
Or gamma. I don't know how it progresses after beta.
Omega. Let's just say.
Alpha,
put it at
beta,
the end
gamma,
there.
delta.
So they're in gamma stage then, right?
Well,
Absolutely.
beta usually means that it's complete and playable.
Well, they're testing it and tweaking things for balance purposes, and that's what the beta is. That's why if you play any game on Facebook, it'll say such and such beta. It allows them to change things and say, no, we didn't break a contract. We're still fine-tuning everything.
Yeah, but the idea is it's a complete playable game. It's just
it
they
shouldn't cause
reserve
you
the right to change things.
Yeah.
Yeah, alpha's a stage where they can still just say, this entire thing, overhaul it.
There was a coding bug, and anybody who tries to play it has their computer burned as it overclocks them. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But
That's alpha. So this would be gamma then, because
want to
they've
avoid
closed
that.
it, and then they're just tweaking this and that, seeing whether or not they want to keep the mechanic.
Well,
Does it
usually
work?
there isn't a stage after beta, and I don't think there used to be, I think it was just they called it beta for, I don't know what beta stood for, but I don't think they used to even have alpha. I'm not sure.
Alpha would be before they even let the people beta test it. That was just to make sure that the game was functional, I believe.
Yeah.
Alpha was not a proper term. Beta was just like, okay, this is our second
But
best.
once you're done beta, you're full release, you're released. You're out there in the
We're
world.
out of beta. We're releasing on
We're
time.
selling this, and we think this is good enough to be we don't have to touch it anymore. Of course, the reality
with
is
patches now, you can release it after beta. It should be good enough to sell, but then hopefully it's like, okay, well, we're fixing this little thing,
Yeah, just talk to Bethesda about that one, man.
Yeah.
Their games are beautiful, but you've got to hold off a couple months before purchasing it just so they can patch it, and then fix the patches and then patch those ones up before you get a game that's, you can expect to play full through before, any crashes happen.
I don't know, unless you want to get on the ground floor and be one of those people reporting those bugs.
Well,
Some people do it.
That should be what beta's about, but Bethesda doesn't work quite conventional.
Yeah, you're never going to release any game that is 100% without bugs, though, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
But, so yeah.
So it's been like 10 years making it.
A role-playing game is a little different, though, right?
Well, this is the granddaddy of role-playing games. Yeah. This is the big name in the gaming industry. Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons. So I think it's okay that they took the extra stage and went into this unheard of gamma stage.
Well,
that I've just now.
They were literally calling it gamma?
No, I've just now made up the term. But they did the beta, then they closed it, and they're still doing some different things about there.
But they haven't actually. The book is not for sale, is what you said.
No. Which reminds me, it is the start of March, so if those of you who have been following, squirrel away another $20. This should put you now halfway towards the amount of money it should cost to buy all 3 books when they come out this summer. $20 a month, you should be up to $60 now. That should buy you a book and a half, not including taxes.
Yeah. What I really liked about the playtesting for it was a lot of it still felt like this is kind of the same old D&D. Like when I was playing it, I was sort of thinking, well, we'll see what it is. It might be something completely different. It really wasn't something completely different, but it was different enough in enough areas to actually make a difference, to make it better. And I think the best part there was it was quicker to get through combat. You still needed to be tactical, but you weren't spending all your time like, okay, wait, can I move over here to do the cover thing? And just like, no, okay, walk up, I attack it. That thing's dead? Okay, let's see. Next person. Keep going.
None of the things we fought died that quickly and easily, though.
Oh, no.
But what I liked about it was that just by playing it and looking at what I saw for the character sheet, it felt smooth and streamlined.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see if you can sneak around, Mr. Fighter? Sure, it's a dex check. Oh, the rogue, they're skilled in that sort of thing, they get a +10 bonus to it. And that's just how it works. You can make any check you want, sort of thing. If you're skilled in it, you get the +10. If not, you just add stat modifier.
Do we just want to do a quick rundown of the session that we played and some interesting stuff that happened in it?
Yeah, I think
I want to hear it.
It was the Minds of Madness module that they apparently run with some frequency. They had enough for 2 tables.
5 of us? 5 players there?
We had 6 players at our table, I believe 4 at the other. It's a good thing we had 6, I will say that.
Yeah, we needed a little bit of cannon fodder.
As it turned out, you could go into the mine, but there's an outhouse out there that says keep out, and so we...
So, of course, what did you do?
The priest checked out the outhouse, saw something twinkling down in there, and I'm the dwarf, so I have dark vision. Go in and look and see what you can find.
So
it's an ever-burning torch in a bucket down there, and then a purple worm ate the entire outhouse and sank down beneath it.
With his dwarven fire Achdoodle inside it.
That's a good name. Yeah.
It was a quick name sort of thing. I mean, it's not like his elven wizard was named much better.
Rael of Frost, or Ray of Frost. Yeah.
But
that was his 0th level cantrip that he could cast whenever, so I figured he'd be doing it a lot.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing I noticed about spells, is wizards felt more like sorcerers, and cantrips were basically at will.
Yeah, I think they added that in 4th edition.
I haven't
played a lot of 4th edition. I kind of wanted to play some at GottaCon, but never really got a chance to.
It did make sense. I mean, they're very small things, and the Ray of Frost allows him to effectively not need a crossbow or a bow. That's his backup default weapon.
Actually, have you guys played a lot of Pathfinder too? Because that
is almost exclusively what me and my group plays now, as it's basically 3.5 plus.
Yeah, and I believe they made the change in Pathfinder that you have unlimited use of certain spells.
Unlimited use of cantrips for, I think, all of the spellcasting classes.
Okay, yeah. So it's similar, but yeah.
Yeah, and I do like that you do have some backups that are useful. I still feel like the cantrips in general in Pathfinder, it's better than not doing anything, but still generally useless. What I liked about the Ray of Frost was 1d8 damage. It's not that good, not that bad. Slowed your opponent down 10 feet. Really useful when you're trying to run away from an iron golem through a pool of bat guano.
Yes, as it turns out, according to the DM, no one has ever not checked out the outhouse. but almost all parties wind up dying trying to fight the worm, the giant purple worm.
So the giant purple worm doesn't come out of the outhouse unless you go and check it?
Yeah, it's like one of those walk without rhythm and you won't disturb the worm.
Yeah.
And we walked with rhythm.
Oh.
And so, yeah. But I'll say it, our dungeon master was quite lenient and generous sort of thing. And we managed to defeat a purple worm with 3 survivors. Nobody inside the worm survived, I believe.
Well, he wasn't going too easy on us, so it's not like, oh, a few hits, yeah, it's dead there. No, we dealt enough damage to kill the thing, and it's not like, well, I'll stay away from the weaker characters. Nope, definitely went after my mage at one point, because he was the most viable target, and just fireballed him. So, yeah, he was nice about it. I think the main difference that he allowed us to keep playing, because it kind of sucks when you all die within the first hour. You've got 4 hours to fill.
Well, from what I heard from the other table is it was a double party wipe. They died fighting the worm, and then they died again fighting something else.
Yeah, I think what I liked about so dying is you can go into negatives just like normal D&D.
But it doesn't end at -10. It's at negative your hit points.
Okay. Also, 4th edition, I think.
Again,
or
I went to 4th edition.
Very popular
house
rule, the 3rd.
Constitution,
okay.
Or your Constitution score.
Right.
So yeah, it's nice that you can be dying for longer, but it's basically you fail 3 stabilization saves and you just die. You're dead. You're done. You succeed on 3 and you stabilize. I think it's supposed to be you stabilize at 0.
He put us at 1 just to make sure we could do something.
So we could get up and start doing stuff. And, well, it's like we did have potions, so that made it a lot more useful and a lot less lethal.
We were 3rd level. Yeah.
Now, if he's breaking the rules, though, do you think that's a problem with 5th edition, like the way
No, that was just for the
just
sake of making sure everyone was happy at the table, sort of thing, and able to contribute.
So if it was a longer-term campaign, it'd be like...
If it was more serious and
probably,
you were planning it out, you'd think, well, I probably shouldn't be putting them up against a purple worm, and if I want to be a DM, that allows them to have a longer session.
That seems odd. What level did you start at?
3.
3rd.
Level 3? Yeah, because a purple worm in 3.5 edition...
It's like level
has
6.
to be, yeah.
No, he was up there. He'd be like 15, 17.
It's a pretty high challenge rating, but I think you weren't supposed to anger the worm. You were supposed to outhouse, that's useless, let's just keep going. But the keep out sign, really, if you want people to keep out, you shouldn't say keep out. There might be something in here. That's an invitation for adventurers. Yeah. You should say, there is a purple worm in here. That will keep people out.
Well, the point of game design, if you put a purple worm in the vicinity of the adventurer or in somewhere that players might go, somebody is going to go there, and maybe everybody's going to go there.
Well, okay, spoiler alert, in case you or your players are ever going to play Minds of Madness or this module, then stop listening. You don't want a whole lot more.
Yeah, stop listening 5 minutes ago.
Geez. Okay, well, damage is done. Apparently
no damage is done, because as the DM said, nobody has not checked out the place and then wound up getting into a tussle with a worm.
I don't think it's not that.
But here's the thing: is what I liked about it is that my warrior was like immediately, fighter was immediately taken like into the worm sort of thing and eaten, and yet he wasn't the first one to die because of those negative hit point issues. And in instances where he got his replacement got
what
into
was
a
his
fight.
replacement's name?
Hoot Mahoot.
Delightful.
Yeah, in the instances when he was knocked down, he was not the first to die because that you don't die till negative your hit points happen.
Yeah.
And so it was, as one other player mentioned, it's really hard to kill you, and that sounds like a fighter thing. It should be really hard to kill a fighter compared to another class, like a wizard or something. And so just that one passive rule made it feel like my character was tougher, sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
And so that was kind of an interesting, just an ambient rules change that really did make it feel more like I am a tough fighter dwarf. Yeah. The other bit I liked was healing. If I'm at 15 hit points below 0, I'm not dead because I had 30. On the other hand, if I get healed for 5 hit points, I'm at 5 hit points. I'm not at -10.
Okay, that's more convenient.
It does help put you back in the action quicker and able to do something, even if it's just to flee. And I kind of like that. It's a simple, small rule change that kept people happy, kept players, moving, and made sure things went smoothly and quick.
Yeah, it doesn't take out the fear of, oh, my character might die, but still allowed you to do more and be in the action a bit more.
And the concept of like even like a cure, like insignificant wound sort of cantrip in 3rd edition. It's not that actual title, but that's
like it could stabilize you, which is basically all you really did with that spell is to stabilize people.
Stabilize you, or just use it when you are like, okay, you got knocked down 3 hit points. Beep beep beep. There you go.
Yeah.
Now you're back in full.
That's still 3 castings of the spell.
So now that spell basically gets you back on your feet.
That would put you at the 1 hit point sort of thing, and that it seems like something if I play 3rd edition 3.5, I might house rule that myself because it makes the spell tactically viable, and it's like, okay, now we have to haul like this unconscious body. Beep. Now you're up. You're not going to be in a fight because you've got 1 hit point, but at least you can move your own damn dwarf body.
Yeah.
And so it was the simple rules like that I found to be perhaps some of the most significant and pleasing changes.
Okay, well, I think in that sense it would work more like a revive spell from your typical JRPG, where when you're in a fight, your characters aren't dead, but they're out of the count when they lose all their hit points. You can get them back up off their feet, but you better heal them afterwards with something serious if you want them to actually keep fighting.
It kind of depends on the JRPG, though. Some of them actually do say
I'm
die.
just thinking Chrono Trigger. I love Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, some of them do say die, but it does work more like I knock you unconscious. Even if it does say, it's like death spell activated.
There's not an FMV. You're not going to die.
So yeah. But yes, I very much was happy at how quickly combat went. Nice.
Even considering we were fighting like some stuff that's not going to be dead in a few rounds. We did some throwaway things.
If we had gone through the front of the dungeon, it would have been a lot more easy to kill things.
Yeah, so basically what we did is we took the service elevator down, which happened to be the shaft created by the purple worm, which ended pretty much at the end of the dungeon. So we sort of took a shortcut there. You would have run into the purple worm eventually, probably, but couldn't.
There was maybe something apparently earlier on in the dungeon that would have allowed you to not have to fight the Iron Golem.
We, of course, went and fought the Iron Golem after pissing it off enough. There's this tiny crack between this giant boulder that was sort of blocking up this doorway.
To go back up the dungeon. We were taking the dungeon backwards.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we see this Iron Golem moving back and forth, and of course it's not going to respond too much like fire arrows through a tiny little slit there. So we got my maid kneeling in bat guano, just shooting ray of frost at it until
through a crack in a boulder.
Yeah, just big enough.
Well, it wasn't a crack in a boulder. It was like the little bits, between the boulder and the wall. Like when Indiana Jones is running away from the giant round ball after stealing the idol. Yeah. Why doesn't he just dive into the corner and let the boulder roll past? Because it's a round object in a square, area. When you do a biopsy slice of it.
Yeah, because that physics calculation is easy to do on the fly.
Well, if it was a very round ball.
Hey, he's an archaeologist, not a physicist. Give him a break.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But even when I was young, I was like, well, why doesn't he just go down to the corner and then just let it roll by? Because it was a very round ball.
Yeah, but you're sort of sitting in your living room. He has a death temple around him. Circumstances come into play.
Circumstances like, why did you try and replace it with a bag of dust and dirt and soil?
Why not? I'm trying to estimate what the weight of it was.
That didn't work.
The density of gold is so much heavier than standard soil and sand.
He's not a physicist again.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'd say that maybe through experience he would know the weight of what gold should feel, but I'm going to say, turns out it's like one of those disappointing Easter candies. It was hollow. So there's too much weight that he put on there.
Why you didn't just put like a big rock over top to make sure it doesn't come up? I don't know.
Also, I mean, it could have been that fraction of a second where it was off the pedestal.
No, because after he puts it on, he turns around, then the thing it's on moves up.
No, didn't it start to go down?
I think it went one way, then the other.
It moved.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll have to analyze that further.
But yes,
one more topic for another podcast.
Another day.
But yes, so going back, it was that little area in between the boulder and the wall that he was big enough to squeeze a halfling through.
Apparently,
you had a halfling?
No, I was a mage. One of the other characters
different
was playing a halfling,
yeah.
And so just picking off at it with the Ray of Frost until it got angry enough to burst through the boulder, kill most of our party almost. I think
I survived because I feigned death that time.
Yep. He played death. He played dead.
I was knocked to very, very little hit point. Oh, I was knocked to negative and then healed up a bit, but I was like lying prone at the golem's feet, so I just tried to act dead.
Yeah.
Which I got a natural 19 on. So I mean,
I saw a couple of instances of that at different games that I watched.
I was just happy he didn't try. The golem didn't try and like snuff me out like a cigarette butt, man.
And
okay.
Well, since to get to this part where you're fighting the Iron Golem, you have to wade through like waist deep or neck deep for a
Well, that's the thing. Is
fat guano. So we were all moving at half speed, and so this Iron Golem apparently moves at regular speed. Was also slowed down, but not quite as much. But between it being slowed down and me firing Ray of Frost at it, which slowed it down, we ended up just sort of kiting it until it died. Because we were kind of nearing the end of the time.
It was towards the end of the session. The DM also wanted to make a quick run into the auction hall and do the silent auction bit.
Yeah.
And so he's as I said before, he was being generous with us. So eventually he just fast forwarded the combat thing.
He did make us do like a general luck roll, like do you roll some natural ones and like drown in the fat guano. We didn't, so it's like okay, whatever, you kill it. So keep going.
So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw some more of that too. We could talk about that as a convention game sort of thing. In that
I'm
you
just
have
going
to
interrupt you there if you hear any snoring. That is again the third brother Kirkby, Adam, our adjunct
silent brother,
guest.
not so silent.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
You noticed several other tables.
Well, there's some similarities in all the convention games, and that one of the things is that whole switching gears to a more narrative style and saying, okay, we're not actually going to play through this
round by round,
and that's a commonality that I saw in a lot of games. And I wondered, like, we don't do that necessarily. Sometimes we do in our home games. But I wonder if that's something that we should take away.
Technically, we did do something like that at certain parts, at the non-combat parts. We were playing a game of Hero Quest just before we started up today. And in which case, whenever it was not in combat, just position you guys as you so see fit, and then we'll resume the natural combat order.
Yeah, assume no one's going into new rooms. You're not going to be revealing any enemies. Just take whatever time you need to do it instead of rolling all the movement, because you don't get your movement roll.
Person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4. Okay, move it around. Okay, now you're ready. No, just move yourself however you like. We'll fast forward it to that point.
Okay.
Or when you cleaned out the one wing of the dungeon area there, or Felmarg's tomb. It's like, okay, now you guys can, if you want to go on back this way, just put yourself however you want here, and we'll say you just walk on back. So it's the non-combat parts in that case, but you're talking more of like a fast-forwarding combat itself.
Well, yeah, even combat, like you were talking about with the kiting the golem, in that it would be technically, by the rules, you're supposed to roll for every round and see who hits.
But I think the golden rule here is it going to be more fun to do this or this?
Well, I do.
Whatever is the most fun, and, it's not fun if you're just like, yeah, sure, whatever, you guys kill it. No, part of the fun is the challenge. So if you get rid of a challenge, it's not fun. But if you're just skipping through the boring, busy work, you know what? Some players like that. If you know your players like it, then role play and roll through every single little minute detail if that's what you guys want to do. But if not, just do what's fun. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun.
I recall actually a little bit of an obscure rule, and I think either 3.0 or 3.5 D&D, where to speed along combat, double the damage for everything.
Yeah.
Technically unfair to the players, and it even mentions this, but it was a way of fast-forwarding through combat. It's just everything deals twice as much damage.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's another way to do it.
But that's one I don't think I've heard anyone actually use for an optional rule for speeding things along. There is the other one for the tri-stat system. They call it Hong Kong Action Theater, where instead of rolling to see, like, do I do like 25% of my max damage or max damage, like how much of that do I deal? Always max. Just ignore that extra roll. You always deal max damage for all your attacks, all this. Whatever the number is for the variable on damage, it's always the max. Much more lethal, but a lot quicker, and a lot more oomph, in the fights to them.
Yeah, I mean, if you just want to make it a little bit quicker, you can do everyone rolls average damage.
Which is not
could
bad.
work. Wouldn't be as quick, but I feel like if you're going to do everything does max damage or double damage, then you're really going to need to work something out with hit points because it's not going to scale properly on that end of it.
Didn't they? I think starting in 4th edition, monsters just do a set amount of damage, don't they?
Minions, I think, do.
Or minions do.
1 hit point, set amount of damage, just so they play quicker.
Yeah,
I think that makes a lot more sense from the DM's point of view because your characters, you have one person to control. You could, while everyone else is doing something, just roll your damage and your attacks ahead of time. But the DM's like, okay, I got like 3 orcs over here and some goblins over here. Roll for this person. Yeah, they hit. Roll for this person. Yeah, they hit.
I've always been against the 1 hit point minion sort of thing because, like even a kobold should have an option, maybe surviving 2 rounds. Because it has 3 hit points and you deal only 1. Like, I remember back in a game of World of Warcraft, going through like one of the Zangar Marsh dungeons, and my friend, was playing the healer, and he just just kill those little critters that go running by whenever you get the chances you're running back after a wipe, and he failed to kill the critter in one hit. He had to go back and hit it a second time to kill it, just because it was so embarrassing. And everyone wound up laughing at him because it's like, dude, you are so weak as a combatant. You can't kill a critter in a single hit. You have to take 2. Good thing you're the healer. And so it's little things like that add the nuances, the chances for the extra fun, I find. So if the kobold...
So you like that. You think that's a good thing.
So if somehow like the kobold survives 1 round against, like a, let's say level, 4 fighter, it's like, oh yeah, good job there, you're a real good fighter, eh? And everyone gets a chance to rib him a little bit, have a little fun. It's like, oh boy, we're fighting trolls. It's a good thing they're not kobolds, or they'd be going down once every other round, Mr. Fighter. It's just chances to add the character the fun and the good-natured ribbing that does this sort of thing.
I think, again, it depends on the style of play you're looking for. I think it's sometimes... I feel like in a campaign, depending on your group, you should occasionally come up against stuff that's a little too difficult for you. Not just just above your character level, but stuff you should run away from. Mm-hmm. Man, there have been a few times in D&D where the DM has thrown stuff at us that he fully expected us to run away from, and we decide, a green dragon? No, we're going to fight that. And he has to actually be like, okay, geez, I need to sacrifice this NPC to be like, I'll hold it off. Run away. So he wouldn't total party kill us.
If you put it into play, it's going to be in play.
And I also think on the flip side of that, you should just have some fodder that you can just throw at your players just so that they have something to
henchmen.
Just to kill.
The term is henchmen. Torchbearers, treasure carriers.
Nothing malicious, but just the...
Horses.
So that even the wizard gets to be like, yay, my cantrip actually does something like pew, 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 and... No, it's not a significant kill, but it's still you manage to do something. You're picking these things off, and it's fun and it's lighthearted because there's no real threat to you guys.
If the DM plans ahead, what you could do for a combat scenario, have the fighter go up against the main big bad, and have minions come constantly swarming in. So the wizard would be using his low-level spells to keep the minions from swarming too much. Yeah. Everyone complains, oh yeah, what good is a fighter's 3rd attack if he's at 10 points beneath? He's never going to hit anything reasonably challenging that way. No, maybe not. He does have the option of the natural 20, of course.
No.
That's always there. But you can have the fight so that the warrior takes his first 2 attacks on the big bad, and in his 3rd attack he's also killing the little minion henchmen on each side as he goes, just to show, okay, this guy's big and bad, but I'm still killing things, and they're just collateral damage.
Yeah.
Plus he's got the great cleave, so he gets another attack on the guy anyways. Ha-ha! And so that way you can set up for a very heroic fight scenario if you plan ahead. And that not everyone has to be always focusing the big, spells on the big bad. Sometimes use the smaller stuff on the weaker guys to keep things from getting too complex. And that way you're doing crowd control. Very nice, very good. Underrated by a lot of people, but it's very effective, and it does set up the scenario. But that said, I do notice earlier on tonight in the Hero Quest game we played, there were some guys that were technically bigger and tougher than any one of you. And yet you guys still decided to try taking them, at less than strategic, points, and just try your best.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of like a, hey, you guys want to play Hero Quest? And like, yeah, sure, why not? So it was a little bit of a one-off thing, but now we're thinking through the magic of Skype, we could probably actually just keep going with this.
It would be nice to actually get to Quest 14. I haven't had anybody make it that far in all my years of owning the game. Let alone any of the expansion packs I've opened, read, loved, but never played.
Yeah. So I think if you're doing something like a one-off, you have a better chance of having the mage go up there and yeah, sure, I'll try and stab this thing, and nearly get killed and realize that if I want to stay in the game, maybe I should stop doing that. And if you have a longer-running campaign, I find that players tend to take less risks. Although, mentioning that the game does move faster in D&D Next because of the way they've simplified and streamlined some of the combat rules. I'm just realizing a lot of the time with my current D&D group that is sort of not used, the sort of wasted time, is just sort of spent dicking around doing random stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Case in point, we had to steal some enchanted artifacts from this dwarven order, this dwarder as I call them, and so we decided, well, let's get some of their robes so we can dress up as them. So we spend an hour and a half to 2 hours doing this heist on a laundromat and role-playing the entire thing, and the DM's like, oh my god, okay, yeah, you guys, you unlock the door, it's not a difficult lock, and one of us is sneaking in through the attic, and actually sneaks into the bedroom, and it's this big old thing, and it takes up most of the session.
Meanwhile, the bard does a quick sketch of their robes, what they look like, goes to the seamstress, and manages to charismatically convince her not to let it out when he makes the robes tailored to the player's sizes. Pays her an extra gold for her trouble. He is done.
No. Compromises our cover. She might take the gold and tell people anyway.
Yeah,
trust nobody.
That's why the bard
will
does
never agree to it. You get endless arguments. I guess you could write the DM a note, but then the DM has to take attention off of what the rest of the group is doing and decide on your note.
Sometimes you got to go back and forth. Sometimes things split. Not always wise, but that's how it goes.
Never split the party.
That's the thing is D&D. I mean, all monsters are effectively, group monsters. It's not like WoW where there's a whole section for monsters you can fight one-on-one normally.
Yeah.
They're all considered, elite groups that need a party to fight and succeed against them. So, yeah, splitting a party, especially from the D&D sense, very unwise, but fun. Sometimes to try.
Well, and of course, that's the other thing. I mean, we talk about tactics and taking risks, but sometimes it's just more fun to see what happens when you run in there and guns blazing, or
sometimes,
your mage running up.
That's like a quote.
That's the name of the game, yeah.
As it reminds me of a quote I found somewhere online. Is sometimes you just have to say forget it. That's a polite term for just say forget it. Draw your sword and see what happens.
Yeah. I think, my current gaming group tends to do it a little more on the side of, well, wait, hold on, let's plan this out and let's strategize this, and we end up spending way too much time on the little things, like there's a corpse in the corner, and we're like, okay, wait, hold on, everyone stop, it might be an undead. I decapitate it. Wait, what? Can undead still move without a head? I don't know. Let's cut its arms off, then it can't attack us. And then DM's like, oh my god, you guys, that was flavor text. Just move on to the next room. That was the dead janitor. Just.
Well, it's just the thing is the DM could always argue that that's mutilation of a dead body, which I do believe is an evil act objectively, under the objective terms of morality in D&D.
Yeah.
So
depends on the DM, I think.
So that's the sort of thing where you keep a running tally on that sort of thing. It's like, no, you've performed enough evil deeds. The cleric senses a taint upon your soul.
What's this cleric sensing my soul's taint?
It's his church. He's allowed to sense all the taint. Sense all the taint. Hey, in Oriental Adventures, that's a spell. It's a legitimate spell. Sense taint.
I would have thought that would mean a book of erotic fantasy, but oh well.
No, Oriental Adventures.
Fair enough.
But I think, taint comes up in different kind of taint comes up in, or the kind of taint that we're supposed to be talking about.
Because the gods died, fell to earth, and are rotting upon the land in that spot.
Yeah, and it's not even evil. That's the thing. It's just sort of
corruption.
Maybe it's corruption, or it's not necessarily.
It lends itself to evil. And that evil tends to make the most use of it, but by and large, it's basically magical radiation.
But I like a good taint.
Well, I guess it's something
depends
else.
on who you're talking to. But no. By the way, as a nice quick point, if you ever want to deal with like radiation as something from like a fantasy perspective, and you don't want to go with like the D20 future route for radiation damage, the taint score and all that from the Oriental Adventures, I think is a very nice way of adapting. So.
Oh, okay.
It's just a nice little throw bit. So if you're thinking about, I want to come up with uranium in my game.
Well, when I would just use con damage, I would just basically that simple. Just you lose con. If you keep getting exposed to the radiation, you gradually lose con.
Or gain a taint score for other stuff, depending on the purpose.
Yeah, I guess if you want to tie it to fantasy and sort of blur that line, sure. Yeah.
If you want to go with a grim fantasy, a dark fantasy setting, where someone set off a magical nuke, and so you've got like the magical wasteland. So you got your chaos magic, and then you've got your taint score to show how much magical radiation.
Taint magic.
I think they do have taint magic there. You need
taint science and a taint magic.
I don't want to know what taint science is.
Hey man,
I think we've gotten off topic.
There are taintologists working day and night to push the boundaries of taint science.
So,
taint magic by taint scholars.
Well, did you want to finish any talking about the adventure, the Minds of Madness? Did you finish?
I think the key point that I thought was the best for what I got as a small experience into D&D Next is I do like that they streamlined combat. That's always been my least favorite part about D&D, is that it takes too long to get through combat, and that's not really usually the most interesting part of it. I really like the role-playing part of it.
Yeah, and the stories.
I'm still on the fence as to what they did with skills. You don't get as many skills, sort of thing, like points to distribute out. Yeah, depending on your background and your class, you gain certain areas to which you gain a bonus on. I found it very interesting. If you're a half-orc, doesn't matter what class it is, what your background is, but because you are a half-orc, if it's any knowledge check relating to Orcish history, you gain a +10. That's your proficiency with it.
Okay,
so an Orc would be expected
to have a substantial bonus, but I guess it depends what the DC is.
Well, it helps overcome the unintelligent aspirations that most people have for half-orcs. So you can be a dumb half-orc but still know your cultural history of your orcs. And that would be
kind of depends
expected.
On the difficulty class you're going to be coming up against.
If you're a dwarf, you know about dwarven history, and depending on your backstory and your origin and all that, you gain a bonus too. If you're a blacksmith, anything related to metallurgy, you gain the +10 sort of thing on.
I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, you think about it, you grow up in Canada, you know probably a decent amount more about Canadian history and Canadian culture just by living here than someone would have to take time to research and really get to know. You don't just know it, you also know it personally. It's it's in there. It's something you take for granted, but
we have it in high school. I mean, in high school social studies. We learn about our own country.
Exactly.
We
so
should
I think
be.
a plus
Whether
10,
or not we did.
like a plus 10 bonus for growing up in that culture, yeah, it sounds about right to me.
But I've always been a fan of the point here, point there sort of thing when you want to.
Well, yeah, plus 10 is, that feels huge in a game with plus 2s and, plus 1s.
Yeah.
Plus 10 feels rather substantial.
It does really help push the tide so that even a 2 can become a 12.
Yeah.
And that really makes it wow.
Yeah, it feels like, every orc is going to be an expert on orc history. Well, that's fine. That's
but yeah, I like the back history stuff where, like, yes, I'm a fighter, but I was
10 ranks in decorative cake frosting.
I have a history. I started off as a miner, that's why I got the big muscles. But then I found my chance to become a page from helping out the knight, and now I'm a knight myself. And so I put like one rank in profession miner or something related to that for your backstory. Yeah. And then it's just a little bit. It doesn't have to really define what you can do. It's just a little bit to show your backstory, and that's kind of what I like.
What I really liked that Pathfinder did was, instead of getting rid of skills, they just combined a lot of them. So you want
the sneak and the perception checks as opposed to...
Exactly. So you have stealth instead of move silently and...
But here's the thing. If you're invisible, can't they still hear you just as well? Why are you getting a bonus on your stealth checks?
Because they can't see the sound of your footsteps.
Because it's abstract and it sort of doesn't happen.
You can't see the onomatopoeia that pops out. It's
if
like
you
are
trying
universe.
To hide in the shadows, but you're hiding in the shadows against a dwarf who can see the darkness perfectly like it was daylight, why are you gaining a bonus to your stealth checks then? Shouldn't that just apply to whether or not you can move silently and don't attract their attention?
Well, isn't this why we have DMs? Like, to say, well, let me see, you are in the open daylight, so I'm not going to apply
bonus,
that.
I would say. Cause, think about it. Let's say I play a character who is blind. They can hear perfectly well, so what is their perception going to be? It's not spot and listen anymore, it's perception. So you could argue that maybe their hearing is better because they are blind. So, but you still can't see anything. You cannot see anything. You're blind.
And that's why I understood why in 3.0, 3.5, they had it based on your various senses as to what you can perceive.
That's true, and I feel like no matter what, there's going to be more skills that are covered in the laundry list that you have in 3.0, 3.5, or Pathfinder. So there's going to be some granularity there. You're going to miss some stuff by combining things together, but it also needs to be like, okay, well, what sort of knowledge architecture do you have? Like, what period in history of architecture? Useful architecture? Fancy architecture? There's a lot of...
Architecture I can see, not architecture I can hear.
Yeah, I know. It's a little bit easier to say, it makes sense to split that up into two different parts, but you can go infinitely deep and just keep splitting up each skill into each more sub-skills, so you're going to lose something, and yeah, I'd agree with Josh. That's where the DM comes in. You need to say, well, in this circumstance, no, I think you won't be able to see the invisible person, you blind guy. You can't do that.
But that's why I like the one rule they said for the tri-stat thing. You can make it a very, very specific skill. And the more specific you make it, the less chance it'll be relevant, but the more information you get from a successful check.
So you're almost making the system with the character in that case.
Well, the thing is, it works more like specializations in real life. Yeah. You know more and more about less and less.
But how much?
But when it's your field, oh boy, do you know a lot. So like a person could have like knowledge for the geography of America, and they know the basic stuff, how to get from A to B. If you have knowledge of Baltimore, you know the streets of Baltimore. If you have knowledge about a particular location, you know where this store is for that. You know where the secret areas for, or here that's traditional secret areas sort of thing. That's where they had the smuggling operations back in the 1900s. More and more, the more focused you become with your skills. That doesn't reflect in D&D, though.
I haven't played, honestly, any tri-stat, but I do like the sound of that. So it's the difference between your general studies person, your general science, your physicist, and your astrophysicist, and you get more and more focused.
You're micro-astrophysicist.
Only studies the micro things in the micrometeors.
The muons flying through space, the tiny space stuff.
Oh, yeah.
How does light interact with the void of space itself? I'm writing a lot on that. No one else understands me, but trust me, I know what I'm doing.
But
It could be quite important.
Even with the specialized knowledge, though, one of the things you see DMs doing, and I like seeing it, is that they will say, well, because you're in this field, maybe sometime during your studies you happened across somebody who was working in an office, I guess it's modern day, but the office across from you in the university was working on some project, and you overheard some detail about this knowledge, like it's knowledge nature, this subset of knowledge nature. So now you know this fact because...
And that's how you succeed on the general knowledge checks when you don't have the
So how would
ranks.
it work in TriStat if you focus on, let's say, astrophysics, and you have a question that is about just like some other thing in physics? Let's just say...
You take a penalty depending on how far away it would be related, according to the DM.
Okay, so yeah, DM adjudication.
It's basically like taking a trick shot with your brain and your knowledge base.
And I guess there's always the random element, which is the die itself.
Yeah.
And that represents circumstances in
You
your
never
life.
happen to learn that thing, or you just happen to have a friend that had a real interest in that who wouldn't shut up about it.
The guy in the cubicle behind you, when you were doing your graduate studies, would not shut up, and every time you know this fact, you can smell his BO.
You hate that you know this fact.
Because it stinks. The fact itself is just so smelly because of him.
That's cool.
Sounds like this is based off of real life experience here.
Not personal real life experiences, but secondhand experience.
So that's skills, and that's our thoughts.
But yeah, I'm still
next
undecided because I do like the 1 point
stuff.
here, 1 point there, as opposed to just plus 10 in maybe 3 skills depending on your race and class combos.
I think something Jason said earlier. It's fun. Like some aspects of playing with the numbers are because it's fun to have a pool of skill points and get to throw them around wherever you kind of want to.
Like, can you even have like a jack of all trades in D&D Next, where it's just like, no, you've got like these few things instead of like I want to have 1 point.
Depending on your background.
That's true.
+2 to all checks. I don't know.
And there might
we
be
were just
like
playing pre-gen characters.
Yeah.
Like 1 feat or 1 class that just says you know all skills or something. So you don't get that opportunity to throw your skills around. You just have one ability.
So I suppose, long story short on that, I'm definitely going to be picking up a splat book on detailing out your skills.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be how they're going to do is nice basic streamline. Do you want more detail in this? Here's a nice splat book for you. Modular adds in.
Yeah, sounds cool.
And I can dig that. I mean, on the one hand, it's like, oh, now I got to pay $40 more. Rah! On the other hand, I can understand where they're coming from, and they need to make a business too, and it's a decent way of doing things.
I wanted to mention one other thing on skills, and that we didn't mention, is that the party dynamite, the dynamite of the party, is that what sort of the goal of the D&D, like when they design the whole experience, is they want people to work together, and they want, the fighter's got to know a little bit about arms and tactics, or maybe nobility or something like that. The wizard has knowledge arcana, sort of, so they all have their own areas, so that nobody's a jack of all trades, because you want the party to rely on each other. You want everyone to have their own thing.
Well, that's why you don't have 4 jack of all trades. You have 3 specialists and a generalist.
Yeah, then you've got 3 people all crowding around each door, each trap, each riddle, and none of them can really figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's this. I know this one random fact.
So yeah, you'd have the 3 almost identical people, like Ryan, Brian, and Cyan.
Yeah. Although another thing I've noticed in D&D, this came up during a few convention games, is that you will have a problem presented, that the adventure has some wrench thrown in the works. Maybe it's a door you have to get through, and 3 different characters will approach it. And I think this is partly intended, but all 3 characters have different methods of, the fighter has to smash it down, or the rogue wants to pick the lock, or the cleric wants to cast a spell and detect evil, or so there's 3 very different approaches, and the DM has to manage which approach is actually, because they're all sort of rushing at the door. I guess there needs to be like a leader character who can like pick who, or I don't know how that even works.
Leaders are a bit of a
in
nebulous
most
one.
cases, some person will get there first, and when in doubt, roll initiative.
Just roll initiative.
Roll initiative for door.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the barbarian has spent money on an adamantine short sword just so he can stick it through the wall and then carve out a spot just outside the door and push it over.
I've decided I don't like the adamantine cuts through anything idea.
Okay, I like the idea that adamantine can damage anything, but I don't think it's the, cut through it
the
like
lightsaber.
Sort of like the lightsaber sort of thing. I think it'd be, okay, you get the sword in there. No, you can't just slice through it. You need to keep hacking away at the wall.
So what if adamantine is just, like ultra sharp? It has like natural vorpal properties or whatever, and that's what it does instead. Yeah. And then you come up with a different class that's effectively like
cut through the door.
Because that's not as much fun.
Okay.
It is more fun to cut through the wall.
You want to ruin this dungeon.
Well, everybody's crowded around the door. That's the thing.
Okay, you guys can play with your door there. I'm going through here. But, you have like what's effectively a medieval version of the Jedi, because Jason mentioned, it'd be like a lightsaber. In which case, they're able to create, like, what's it, the orichalcum sort of thing? The whole horrible, it's just like gold, silver, brass, mercury, or something. Some sort of horrible. It would make like just somebody who actually knows
metallurgy.
Yeah, their metallurgy. Just make them vomit in sickness hearing this combination.
Vomit in anger.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but they make that, and it becomes the thing that for them effectively works the same as a lightsaber, and that they are able to do these amazing things with their one magical weapon. And that, if they ever lose it, then it loses its properties and becomes just a horrible gunk, with horrible damage, and all that sort of thing. Would that work better then? If what you perceive as the adamantine cuts through anything being like an inherent property of this space paladin that is, the Jedi?
Well, except that it's overpowered. You're not, well...
What if it gets more powerful as you level? As it stands, adamantine ignores any damage, any hardness less than 20. In which case, for this class, it ignores, objects of hardness less than your level. By the time you get to 20th level, then it acts like adamantine, and then it's like, okay, listen, if you can't just teleport through the door or blow the door apart, I suppose you can just chop it down.
I guess that's a good point, because you're basically a god when you're level 20, so...
Well, you get about as close to it as anybody should be without getting these weird delusions. But yeah, would that be a little bit more presentable to you? Is they come up with... some sort of weird psionic class in this case, where they have like a blade that gets stronger. The more the higher the mental powers of its wielder.
Yeah.
So
and I feel bad now for saying overpowered.
Well, understandably, it is because you can get like an adamantine dagger at a pretty low level, and then there's a lock. Who needs a thief? Haha! And you've effectively circumvented a lot of stuff that the thief is specialized for until you start putting locks in the doors, which is ahead of some of the time frames of your pseudo-medieval world.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, I was going to say, if you got a problem with your characters keep just cutting through the dungeon, just give them an adamantine dungeon, then you're getting that one character's like, wait, hold on. I mined the dungeon with my adamantine pickaxe. Like, now they're infinitely wealthy, and they've flooded the adamantine market, and...
I take all the adamantine for myself. I'm not even selling it, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to make holy symbols out of the whole thing.
I'm
starting my own religion.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why you got to be careful with adamantine sort of thing. It may even be a thing that you can't find it on the open market. Maybe you should just treat it as a magical, item or a magical metal.
Yeah, I think 4th edition sort of did that too. They didn't have specific rules for adamantine weapons, but if you look in the magic item section, it's like, here's this fancy ass sword that looks like it's made of adamantine, or here's this armor that's made out of adamantine, but it doesn't give the rules for adamantine itself, just it's part of the construction of that armor.
Oh, and so that makes me a sad panda, because the one thing I liked about some of like second edition stuff, especially for Dark Sun, is that it's like, okay, we got rules for bone, we got rules for wood, we got rules for this, there's stone.
Sort of make your own.
Because metal was very rare. And so effectively, you could have any weapon, and then you just, like apply like a modular, like, wood, modular, stone, modular, like obsidian sort of thing to it, and it would change up. And I kind of hope they would have done that in 3rd edition.
Cool.
I guess with 5th edition, what you can hope for is that maybe that there will be a splat book of like
if
how
they
to
don't
do
start it
materials.
quick enough, I might make it myself. I've been waiting for this one now since the end of 2nd edition was 3rd, 3rd and a half, 4th, Pathfinder. So yeah, that's like we'll call Pathfinder half edition as well. That's 3 editions worth effectively then.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. So if WotC ain't gonna produce it quick enough, I'll make my own splat book.
I really
I'll make
do
a name
like
for
the
myself.
extra rules you've come up with, at least for 3.5, especially your double-ended weapons extra rules.
Sword chucks need to be an option.
Yes, because you can make sword chucks. And
Can you not? Don't they have sword chucks in
no, they
Pathfinder?
have double-ended swords, but they don't have sword chucks.
With a chain in between instead of a metal, bar.
Yeah.
I found a way around that with some of the stuff. I took a lot of the rules from every source I could find and tried to come up with a homogeneous grouping to make it all work. I'm rather proud of it, but I'm hoping to see what it comes out like for 5th edition and what I might be able to do with that.
So that's just in a Word document on your computer?
Yes. Although I am rather proud of it. Maybe if I post it up, as part of the Simulationist on
You can
like
put it on
Facebook,
the blog,
yeah.
yes? Or on Facebook, yeah. Or wherever.
Give
And
it out
it's
to
not
free.
just sword chucks. You can make mace chucks. I'm particularly interested in flail chucks.
Flail chucks? Whip chucks?
I think that's a rope.
Yeah.
I think that's a rope.
I believe I may have put in an option that states DM is allowed to dissuade any options
How about
on there.
scimitar?
Well, I mean, that's, in general, that's always a rule. If the DM says F no, then no.
So yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I have to check this, but I think I may have used no double whips as a specific example. Sorry, I will have to double check on that one though.
I think you're hobbling yourself there. No double.
Well, if the DM is willing to allow it, then okay, but the DM has final say as to whether or not the weapon is considered viable for the campaign. Because, I mean, we've all seen Jackie Chan do something like, what was that one of them Shanghai movies he did?
Where Shanghai Noon, where it's just got like a rope
horseshoe,
with a weight on the end of it?
Horseshoe with a rope
Which is
on
an
there.
actual, I think, a martial weapon. Or
Well, not actually with a horseshoe, but it's
a weighted rope. Or
a
something.
flexible metal with you swing it around sort of thing. And that's viable in Jackie Chan stuff, but you could say, someone tries that, we'll go with a Jason Statham thing, and they wind up doing like so much damage to their own friends, and allies in a fight that is not considered a real weapon. It's just considered a menace to everyone around you.
Just like sword chucks. I think that, okay, again, it's a game. It should be fun. Someone wants to wield just a rope as a double-ended whip. Okay, if you want to spend the exotic weapon proficiency on that, sure. If not, then, yeah, you are going to be missing most of your attacks. Either you're just flailing around with a rope trying to do something useful. Just pick up a sword, man. Yeah.
The concept of two battle axes hooked up with a length of chain caught my interest for an option.
Yeah.
Here's the point, though. Why aren't swords awesome enough? I mean, swords are awesome, right?
Swords are pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves swords.
But here's the thing: is that the more exotic weapons set you make you much more unique by default. Would anybody remember Darth Maul if Ray Parks wasn't, with a double-ended lightsaber?
Scythe chucks.
I was thinking about that as another option because I've seen in a few anime things like a double-ended scythe.
Even just double-ended scythe would be pretty badass.
Now here's the question: do the scythes both face the same way, or do they face the opposite way and make like an S?
S. I'd say more of an S. So then you can do like a windmill thing.
Fancy.
Because I've seen them both ways, and honestly,
If you do them both pointing in the same direction, it's more like a more like the Klingon battle.
Bat left.
Yeah, that's it.
Which I mean might be a viable option if that's how you want to present it too.
So yeah, cool weapons. No, I think swords are cool, but there's cooler.
Exotic is by
so.
nature cool. I
mean, yeah, like the Game of Thrones, like the cool characters on Westeros, they all have their swords and they're awesome. But then there's the Dothraki who have weird, I guess they carry scythes or something like that, and that's exotic. So yeah.
Well, okay. Well, here's the thing: is that the swords are cool when it is this one sword. And one of the things they haven't done in D&D in a very long time, if at all, is find ways to make a sword personalized without making it magical. Make it, like a bejewels, all this stuff, what's the extra cost on that? There should be no actual rules for that. Inscribing runes along the side or putting a semi-serrated edge or anything like that, just to make it look like this is the one sword I wield, this is my sword.
Yeah. See, I don't think it's not necessarily the game system that's not done that. I think you can do that. You can just say, yeah, it's a masterwork sword. A masterwork sword can look like whatever you want. It's just expertly crafted. A lot of players are saying, no, I have a masterwork sword. What's it look like? A really nice sword. No, put some effort into
but
it.
if you're going to be the adventuring son of a nobleman, aren't you going to want like a sword that's got like jewels, like rubies along the pommel sort of thing, and maybe we'll go with an opal along the base and all that.
Well, I will say though that the rule system in a way discourages that because you're going to find a better sword in the next pile of loot or whatever. Well, maybe not the next one, but the rules assume that you're going to upgrade and get it something else. So why spend the time?
But the thing is, you can still keep enchanting and make your sword better and better and better. But I mean, what's to set apart, +2 longsword from that other +2 longsword? No, that's not just a +2 longsword. That's my sword. I gave it a name. It's Steve.
Well, here's
the sword.
And here's the thing: it's a particular sword with a particular style can become like a legacy thing, even if it's not that highly magical. It can still be a thing associated with a person or a family. The Order of the Stickweb comic, the main character is the fighter Roy Greenhilt.
Yeah.
Why is his name Greenhilt? His grandfather wielded a particularly unique sword with a green hilt.
Yeah, and it had star metal in it. And
it got reforged with star metal as it goes, which is But it became, so iconic with the guy, it became the family's name.
No.
The Greenhilts. And so if you
they've been the Greenhilts for generations. That just happened to work out really well.
No, it's actually mentioned in one of the comics that's how they got the name, was the green hilt of the sword.
Well, if it's that easy to get a new name, though, like, couldn't you just, next week, I got a new basket. Well, I guess we're now the Basket family.
Yeah, how exactly do you change your last name? At what point does it become your last name? And what was it before that?
Well, that's the thing, is changing your name has been a big thing. I mean, kings and rulers alike, popes have changed their name when they ascended to the power. And
good point.
Yeah. And so that's a way of also signifying if you want to do it that way.
A lot of kings, you know what's funny? Nobody takes a brand new name. Like, nobody just invents.
Not anymore, no.
Like
actors do.
They
didn't come with completely brand new names. Like, I don't think Nicolas Cage's name is actually Nicolas Cage.
No, he got Cage from Luke Cage in the Marvel comics.
Luke Cage and Nicholas from.
He's a Coppola.
His middle name or something.
Yeah, Coppola.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the kings and like the conquerors and stuff, they always would take some they'd be the third or whatever, the next.
Well, it's to help create a sense of like a continuity, and that it's a good mental tactic. It helps make you seem like you're part of something greater. People are more likely to follow you. If you're this new upstart, you may as well have been a rebel who ascended to the throne. You may as well have been a Cromwell or something.
I guess like the original Caesar was like nobody thought of Caesar as a title before.
And then he was such a good dang ruler, they took it, and that's why you have czars up in Russia.
Yeah.
You used to.
Yeah, now we have czars, like America has czars in their government for some reason.
Wait, what?
It's an unofficial title that they put
in. They call the heads of departments.
Whatever, I don't politics.
Okay.
But yeah, it is the thing, and where does that come from? Caesar. That's like the name as it goes through the languages sort of thing.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
The Russian Tsar is from Caesar.
And the Kaiser, too.
Yeah, it became...
Kaiser.
Yeah, it became such a powerful term. the name became a title. And that's kind of awesome in of its own sense. But it takes a very potent person to do that. And if you do it wrong, you become the next Hitler.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you fail at it, your name gets tainted with the failure for all time.
Still famous, but infamous.
Well, I don't know if it's necessary. I mean, yes, he did, like he definitely was a memorable figure, but I wonder if the name itself, I don't know how, yes, it was important, but also his descendants are like, no, we're going to do this whole Caesar thing and build up on it so that we can build ourselves up with it.
Well, that's the thing, is why did they keep going up with the Caesar name? Because he started up such a nice front, man. He was like the
carrying on from the shoulders.
I don't know about nice, but powerful, yeah.
Well, in terms of I want to take this name and show that I'm continuing from it, he was a very nice ruler for that. You associate your name with him, and that bumps you up a step.
Just when you say nice, I think, oh, what a nice guy. I don't think he was a nice
Efficient,
guy.
I would say for Caesar. I don't really
I've
know
been
enough
told
about
back then
Caesar.
they were decently polite. So unless you really pissed them off in private, he would be at least courteous to you.
Yeah, and then they did that whole thing that in Shakespeare.
And that's why there's croutons in Caesar salad. What?
Wait,
what?
Croutons?
Be courteous.
Oh, courteous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Croutonius.
Should we move?
Yes.
Continue.
I think I derailed that nicely. So
on to other
that was
things we've done this
D&D
weekend.
next. Evolving into Julius Caesar.
Yeah, welcome to Tangents. We really probably should have called ourselves that.
Yep.
But the other thing we did this weekend is our brother Adam. He's played a game called Small World, and we went down to the board game area, and we were able to rent out a copy and play it. I really dug that game, and
So Small World.
Small World, yes.
Published by, do you know?
Not off the top of my head. The basic premise is you have a map, and you have a race that you pick. It's a race and like a thing like merchants or alchemists.
So a race as in like black or white or
Elf.
Okay,
setting,
elf dwarves.
fantasy giants
fantasy
and other fun weird things like that.
Our fact checker has just looked it up. It is Days of Wonder.
Days of Wonder, the company that makes it.
For Small World.
And what you do is you get coins based on how much land you take and some other factors depending on, I was pillaging Ratmen. Every time I conquered a spot that had somebody on it, I would gain 1 gold from pillaging them. And then at the end of my turn, I'd gain a gold for having that territory.
And Ratman just meant there were a lot of you.
Yeah.
I did really like that they had basically descriptors and your race that you were playing.
And it was all decided randomly, so you can't go, oh, I like this combo, so I'll make this combo happen.
I'm going to play flying skeletons. Which, I mean, if that comes up, okay, flying means you can attack anywhere on the board.
You don't have to have
anywhere.
Adjacent.
Exactly.
I saw Small World. I saw them play it on Will Wheaton's show, Tabletop.
Yes. That's a nice way if you want a good visual version of that one. I liked it. I didn't get a chance to do any of the sunsetting mechanic. You sunset your race, you get a new one, and then you get points for the ones, the territories, in decline. You get coins for whatever your old race is holding, in addition to what your new race has. My Ratman didn't suffer much attrition, because once you lose a troop, you lose a troop forever.
So you were Ratman. You were pillaging Ratman, and you were also Ratman?
I was Ratman the entire dang time. I never had them go into decline.
Okay, so randomly you get paired up, pillaging is one of them, and Ratman is another one, so you have pillaging Ratman. And you can have, flying, and you can have,
Flying Ratman, or flying Amazons, or something.
Okay, because when you said pillaging Ratman, I thought you...
Alchemist or something.
The verb got mixed up.
No.
With the descriptor. So he was pillaging Ratman. No, he
if
was
I could have gotten a
Ratman,
point
they
for
were pillaging
destroying myself...
He was Ratman of the pillaging type.
I don't know if we're... Yeah, sorry.
Anyways, so yeah, Ryan, that combination just worked for Ryan. He ended up getting, because they were pillaging...
Technically, I lost the game. I got the lowest score out of the 3.
But not by much.
Not by a heck of a lot. I was just trying out some different tactics. I didn't get mine settled down until about the end of the second turn when I realized... at the start of my turn, I can evacuate out of territories and start somewhere else. So I'd package all my Ratmen up, go to the other end of the map where it was undefended largely, and sweep through and take 4 zones And then because they were all occupied, I get 4 more for the pillaging, for taking, like looting.
Victory points or whatever?
Yeah, the gold coins are
yeah.
victory points.
Okay.
You don't
And so
buy
I
anything with them. You just get them more. Whoever has most at the end wins. They're the stars of Mario Party.
Okay.
So yeah, I never wound up putting my one race into decline, and so the longest lived race in this map was the Ratmen.
Well, they're rats, so.
Oh, they were okay.
They outlived the giants. They outlived the ghouls. They outlived the sorcerers.
I don't think you can outlive ghouls. Technically, they start off dead.
Yeah, and it would still managed to outlive them.
I think that actually, by definition, you've outlived them by being alive in the first place. Actually,
So that's almost a topic in itself. Is that alternate victory conditions? Because there are.
I got a moral victory for having my Ratmen be my only race. I honestly like the combination.
We won, though.
Well, that's the thing is you guys get an achievement too. It's not often you guys beat me at a board game.
True.
So yeah, that's a feather in your cap.
That one game of Monopoly. When we were
like decades ago.
Did they team up against him?
No,
I thought I had a good deal with
luck.
him where it was like he won the Monopoly, so I traded him the one card he would need for the Monopoly of the 3 sets of one color.
I really wanted that card.
And I traded him all his money except for $1.
Oh.
And he wound up not landing on anyone else's property until he passed go and collected money, and he wound up winning the game.
Wow.
Yeah, I really wanted that card. At one point, I even tried pulling a toy gun on him to give
me that property, and it won't blow your freaking head off!
I was like, what, 8 at the time?
At the oldest, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was decades ago. You last concisely won a board game against me. But honestly, this was us learning, and I got the chance. So, you know what? I want to see what this combination is. How much can I get out of this combination? And
it was interesting to see, like, is it viable to play a race through the entire game? Apparently it is. You get the right combination.
It's not that shabby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that if you lose a token for your race, you don't get that back unless you're a race that can somehow get units back.
Like skeletons.
Skeletons proved to be really good against me because I didn't want to attack anywhere that they'd be in too great a number because they could come back and start whittling my numbers down. And if I don't have enough numbers to invade other territories, I'm not getting the points for victories.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just testing out, like, how good can I do for this sort of strategy? Is pillaging a strategy that works really well in great numbers? If I was pillaging elves, if they get taken out of a territory, they don't lose their token, they just run away. And so they get to keep their units unless they get converted by, say, sorcerers who are able to convert very weakly defended neighboring nations.
So if you play it right, it won't happen, but under very specific circumstances, you wouldn't lose elves. So if you just keep taking your elves to swarm over a place, get victory points that way, and then, I don't know, whatever, they get killed, whatever, they go back in your hand, next round you just swarm through a different place, and yeah, there's a bunch of different combinations, and most of them are viable, some of them are really, really good, and if that happens to come up, you snatch up that combination, because you really want to be like flying sorcerers.
But you can't make that thing happen. You can't just make the combinations happen.
Roll of the die?
No, they're shuffled,
yes,
and then you take the top of the stack and you move them for options, and that's what you get. It's a great game, but what I really liked about it was the chance to play it before I bought it.
Yes.
I could have had great reviews read out the thing. It's just longer than my arm. Everyone's saying it's a magnificent game. But, am I going to shell out $45 to $55, $60 for this? Probably not, but I really like the game because I got the chance to play it. Thinking, maybe I'll squirrel away some money. Maybe, $2 here, $4 there. What's in my pocket? Put it into, the small world jar. Come up with enough cash. I'll pick it up sort of thing. That's something that's in my mind now because I got the chance to play before, I paid.
I think a lot of people do this, but what you do is you end up having a friend or a friend of a friend who has the game. You bring it over for a party, you play the game, and you say, hey, that's a really good game. I want to have that on my game shelf. So
yeah, the last game I picked up without trying before I did was Settlers of Catan, and that had to get some very big glowing reviews to catch my interest and say, I'm going to pick this up and then learn to play it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, growing up, back in Invermere, we had Wanna Play, Fun and Games, where I don't know how many or how often other gaming stores do this, but they just had a ton of TV set up, ton of gaming systems. You could rent a game and just play it there for
a couple
half an
hours,
hour, 15 minutes. So, and I did that a lot of the time. You could rent games and systems and bring them home, but you could just be like, hey, I want to try this game out for like 15 minutes, half an hour.
Is this what I think the cover is making me think it is?
Yes, you just play it for a little bit, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to rent this for the weekend. So, or, hey, this is a great game. I rented it for the weekend. I'm going to buy it. So instead of like...
I got a couple bucks, 15 minutes, I'll give it a shot, see what it's like.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of gaming stores that could do this instead of just waiting for one of your friends to have it. Say, like, hey, we're going to have... we have this game, this game, this game, this game, and this game. Popular board games. Come on in, bring some friends, try them. You like it, buy the game.
That's good, yeah. We do this at the convention. Yeah.
So I think a lot of gaming stores could really just do that as a regular basis thing, and I'm sure some do, and I think more should.
Cool. And I think if you're going to be coming around next year for GottaCon, we may want to try out more board games. We didn't exactly get the chance to try out Arkham Horror. I've heard good things about it, haven't gotten a chance to play, but they had a copy there. Unfortunately, I require sleep every once in a while, so I didn't get the opportunity to just,
we all have.
Do, like stay awake every day and just play.
Well, yeah, as much as we did accomplish during GottaCon, there's so much we could have done. And
I would have loved to have caught in some of the panels. I had never even gotten to one this year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there was just so much to do, and because I had my brother with me and we were a two-man thing, it's a little easier to, sign up for 2 slots for a group. Okay, we'll take it. And that way, you got someone on your side there. It's not just like, well, geez, am I going to be surrounded by, like, 4 people, who don't know how to do it or just, like, people I can't stand? No, I got this one guarantee. At least we form a base.
Wow, I've not for 1 second did I worry at this con about having anybody I did not think I could get along with.
It's always a thought that occurs to me.
I guess
the board games are
I would say, I mean, nerds and geeks, we're a diverse group, and there's going to be some jerks amongst every single subset of humanity.
I won't call them jerks in this case. I'll call them maybe more serious players. When I play for fun. Some people play to win.
But I consider serious
Let's say a personality mismatch. This is going to happen within any
but those are my playthings, the people that are jerks or too serious.
So then that's not a personality mismatch. Maybe not for your end of it.
See, and when it came to the board games, I'd have been okay just to rent out a board game, read the rules, and go through like the stuff myself and see how well I can understand it.
And you could do that too.
Yeah, which is a viable option. I mean, sign it out, but it's much better to get the chance to play. So, bring a friend with you sort of thing, and then sit down and learn how to play the game that you say, oh, I like this one, I'll try this one. I've heard good things about Apples to Apples. I haven't tried it.
I prefer Cards Against Humanity. That is a fun game, and one, again, I'm considering on buying only because I've had the chance to play it a few times. Because it is... have either of you played it or have a description of it?
I haven't. I've only heard the name, basically.
Okay, basically what it is, you've got 2 sets of cards. One of them is, have you ever seen that old game show, was it Match Game? No, not Match Game. I think it might be Match Game, where the host reads out a sentence with blanks in it, and you need to fill it in. And it was an old one, sort of tongue-in-cheek.
That's the one with Charles Nelson Riley, right? Yeah.
Oh,
that is Match Game.
Word for it.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Where what you do is one card is flipped up and it's just got a blank in it, and instead of just saying whatever you want to go in there, you've got like 10 cards of just random things that could fit any old blank, except it's horrible stuff. Just very, very not politically correct stuff.
Yeah.
And so you say, like, okay, oh, this card would work best there, and you'll hand them to the person whose turn it is to be the Grand Poobah or whatever, and they read them all out and select anonymously which one they think is the best, and the player's like, oh, that was mine. They get a point.
So it's kind of like a crude and highly focused version of slang teasers?
Kind of crude and version of apples to apples, really.
Yeah, well, I have played Apples to Apples. It sounds very similar to
It
that.
is. It's just very
sounds more adult.
bad. Oh yes, very much more
that's,
adult.
That's the weird use of the term.
Adult yet
They
immature.
say adult, but yeah, no mature person would play it. You got to be a little immature to
Yeah,
know
the-
what
Let's
it
be
is.
honest,
paradox of
adults
adulthood.
really generally aren't that mature. They're just
Yeah.
old enough. Old enough that you're not worried this is going to scar them anymore. Good enough. Do whatever
Okay.
you want. Yeah, that's a fun game. And there are some cards that are just, I would say, broken because you could play it for anything, and they win. They just win. It's always funny no matter what you put it in. And there's some cards that are just like, this is never going to be funny.
That's the equivalent of pocket aces. Also, humor is highly subjective.
Yeah, that's true. Depends on which group you're going with. The person who votes it to be the best might be the one who thinks, that's hilarious, or that's the most accurate, or that actually fits the best. Some of them might just be complete nonsense, but they get the best laugh.
I get that. That has double meaning that way. Very, very clever. Yes.
Yeah, and it really so it goes around. So it depends on what that person's view of humor is. So it's also an exercise in knowing the players as well. Like, oh man, Ryan would think this is hilarious, and he would totally select this one. Maybe he will, maybe he won't though. So.
Who knows? But yeah, so...
the chance to test stuff out before you buy it.
So that's Cards Against Humanity. Recommend testing it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that occurs to me is that there are some...
NSFW. Wow.
There are some games out there that don't go quickly off the shelves.
Yeah.
So what might behoove an owner of a gaming store is if the product doesn't move after a certain length of time, put it as part of like a house game sort of thing, and then rent it out to a person. You know, it's like you want to get a chance to play for the whole thing. It's a $2 deposit, you know, for the whole thing, and then as part of the gaming repertoire. So then you have the people who are sitting around. It's like, listen, you guys are freeloading right now. You come in, you don't do anything.
Okay.
Spend $2 and at least play the dang game.
Well, play the bad game that no one wants. Well,
Give this game
not
a
necessarily
chance.
bad, but one that hasn't taken off yet. That as a business owner, it would really help you if a game does take off.
And then you can
sell it.
wind up writing it off as like part of your business expense.
I guess so, but you have to remember that there are games like Settlers of Catan that you just have customer after customer coming in. Oh, I love Settlers of Catan. Oh, I want to play the number one game.
Those might behoove you to have one just to sort of someone says, I've
you
heard
have
great
one
things
there,
about
you
that.
can still
Can you
make
do that?
money off of it and end up making more than it would actually have originally sold for.
And so you've got your open box to show, okay, this is what the tiles are. They go like this. It's like, oh, so it's not just a fold-out map. No, it's rearrangeable tiles. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So they can learn from it, and so you can use it as effectively well, not exactly a teaching aid, but more of a marketing tool to show what you're getting into with something popular like that. But I think it's a good option. And if you got the table space in there, it's a nice way to make a little bit of spare cash on the slower times when those tables aren't being used.
I think the problem with a more popular game is that people probably wouldn't spend $2 to just get a copy of it and play it in the store when it's like, oh, but Jim has a copy of it. Let's play it off him. If it's a popular game, a lot of people have it.
Gaming groups go in weird circles, though. Sometimes, it's like, oh no, we've only got, non-dice games in our group here. And so if you want to try and find, in your gaming, mass repertoire or your multiple libraries, anything based on a dice, rolling game, you're not going to find anything because that's just how some things go.
No, that's true. Assuming there's not enough diversity in your group to be like, hey, let's try this new thing.
But that's why gaming groups get together, isn't it? Because they coalesce as one based on their desires. So if you're on a diceless streak, you want to play the diceless games, you will find more likely to find a diceless group. And then if you say like, does anyone have a copy of Palladium, stuff, and they're like, dude, do you know how many dice you got to roll for that? No. So no, you're not going to find that.
So
you might have that person who's like, I played a few games that require a lot of dice, and not my cup of tea, but I've tried it. Or someone who's like, I like
dude,
that.
I sold
too.
that
like
copy
this,
8 years
like
ago. I didn't like it.
Well, I mean, look at your own apartment here. I mean, you're into your games that you like, but you have a lot more games than just the ones that. Yeah, I mean, obviously every game you
for
own,
a decent
you
price,
have for a reason.
I'm willing to go for a game I've never played or I'm unlikely to play. The price is right. I just like to read the rules and learn from it. that reflects on me, and as been said, I mean, I don't watch or read so much as I study everything.
I think people like us are becoming more common. Like, people, well, they have more income, so they can, like, you choose to spend what little income you do have on games, for example.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I say when it's a decent bargain, it's like, well, I may never actually play a Warhammer Fantasy game, but for $5 to pick up a splat book on the armies of chaos, well, I'm sure I'll get some interesting read and maybe some decent ideas about that. And honestly, some of their artwork in there is just magnificent, and the painted armies are fantastic that they show.
Yeah,
so I'll consider it worth $5. It's not $5 misspent, but I'll add it to my collection as a breadth of knowledge rather than just pure depth.
The other thing is, I think each person, like, you might... Okay, my current group, we play Pathfinder and D&D, but one of them really likes board games. So if we're looking for some board games, everyone will have a few board games, but she has a lot of them. And, some other, like, some of us are just metalheads and they really like metal. Just everyone has their own interest outside of the one thing that causes you to really be a gaming group. And I think that in most cases you will find, assuming you've got a decently sized gaming group, hopefully one person who has an interest in that, and maybe they have the game. But yeah, again, you will definitely have a situation where you want to try this thing out. No one has an available copy. What do you do? Like, seriously, what do you do in that situation if you can't rent a copy?
That's the thing is with board games, it's still rather difficult to illegally download a copy of it. You could make a thing saying, well, nobody, I can find no gaming store has a copy of this out of print, thing. We'll work with TriStar on that. The game went out in 2006. I really don't think White Wolf has put out anything since then. I don't even know if you can get a copy of it on the RPG Now sites that have the downloads. And so you might be able to make an ethical argument saying it's so out of print, the only way I can get a hold of a copy is, the free copy, because the original PDF was free. It's not an illegal download, but I have to get the download for it. I can't find a physical copy anywhere.
My ethical argument is, yeah, it's unethical, but I'm doing it anyways because I feel like it and I can, and there's not a consequence. But I'm not recommending that for everyone.
I think that's your average mental state of people who download something like, why not?
We'll work with a different example here. The very first edition of the Deities and Demigods had two pantheons, Cthulhu-based one and the Melbourne from the Michael Moorcock series.
Yeah, Melbourne.
Yes, those two pantheons had to get removed for legal reasons.
Yeah, they didn't have the rights.
They didn't have the rights to do things.
Like Lovecraft and stuff.
Yeah, and so, as it turns out, if you were wanting a copy of those, you would have to find one of the out-of-print books that was never allowed to reprint those two. So you couldn't even get the second copy. It had to be a first edition printing of the first, edition, Deities and Demigods. If you want to see what the stats were like compared to that of the gods, so if you want to put Cthulhu in Greyhawk, what are you going to do? You can make an argument saying, no, I want to download to do a comparison with what they were like in previous editions, to get a general power comparison. After that, it's not like I'm keeping it. I don't play any of the stuff. I'm not making any money off of it. So you could make an argument
for academic purposes.
Yeah, academic research purposes. You can do that. You can make the argument. I don't know if it's right, if it's wrong, if it'll hold up in court, but at least you can make an argument from that stance. But yes, board games are still rather hard to illegally download that way. So while you might be able to say, I'm going to download a copy of Races of the Dragon, if I like it, what I see, I'll pick up a physical copy.
Well, I don't know, because you
can't do that with board
games. We played Dungeon Quest. Or Hero Quest. That's Dungeon Quest is another game. All these dungeons and quests get mixed up.
Heroes and Dragons.
But we were talking about with Hero Quest in particular, you don't need any of the pieces that are in the set.
Technically, no.
You can just play it with.
You can find the rules and make it yourself. I did that with the board game Zombies. I realized, wow, you have a description of all of the cards and what they all do online. I could just make a copy of this myself and realize, okay, well, I could just make that out of paper and that'd be kind of crappy. Or Well, I actually ended up getting some card paper, cutting all the cards out, writing down what the description of each card, putting like little pictures on them, and like getting a ruler and making every single game piece. I have an entirely functional version of the Zombies game that I made myself.
And then their lawyers came and broke down your door and
Well,
took
no,
it away.
I think they don't care. They're
No,
like, you know
I
what,
really
the one in like 1,000 people who are actually going to go through the effort to do that, sure, whatever, man. I don't think I'm going to be making any money off of you.
You're not our target audience.
Yeah. You know, and at the same time, I do actually have a physical copy of it now, because I eventually realized I want an actual copy of it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, the information that gets you in there and gets you with the knowledge of it helps you to make the decision to make the proper purchase.
Because it's in some ways like board game companies are just selling cardboard and paper, you know, with pictures drawn on them.
But you really got to convince people these days to go for a board game as opposed to another computer game or console game.
I think the best part about board games is there's actually, you know, human interaction there still. That's still a thing, right? I like that.
I like the tactical stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys want, next time we do Hero Quest, you can root through my stuff of Dungeons and Dragons pre-painted minis, and you can switch that out there.
It'd be pretty fun.
Sounds fun.
But your wizard can't be anything other than a human.
There's
he was playing
there's barbarian, dwarf, wizard, and elf. Like, dwarf and elf are classes.
Well, this goes back to like the first edition D&D, where dwarf and elf were both your race and your class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was playing a wizard, and I kept referring to him as an elf, because common association.
Well, here's the thing: is earlier on during the convention, you were playing an elf wizard. So probably just a leak over in that case.
I kept referring to my character as a elf, and they kept correcting me. So it ended up being a thing where my wizard is like an elf wannabe fanboy.
He's an elf poser.
Yeah, elf poser.
Yeah, that happened. That was amusing.
Yeah, and then the elf died, and he cried a lot.
Yeah. I think the main problem with renting out a board game is when you rent out a video game, what are you going to lose or have broken? The game itself, the instruction manual, maybe any peripherals. Most board games, there's a lot, thanks for that, there's a lot of little pieces that you'd have to, once you get it back, count and make sure they're all there.
And that's what the gentleman did when we returned Small World. He opened up, checked out, made sure the stuff was there.
I'd say, have a policy. When you return something, have 5 minutes. You're going to have to wait there while I go through and make sure pieces aren't missing.
Well, and that's why one of the other things that they did there at GottaCon wasn't you pay money to rent it out, but you give like driver's license sort of thing to make sure you don't just take it and run. This is something that you're going to like stop and like whoa. I'm not leaving without this.
Well, there are companies, and some as little as just people who sell stuff at the dollar store, like the dollar store carries, but they make pieces that are sort of generic and universal that you can use in all different games. Like, you don't necessarily need to have the exact houses from Monopoly or the houses from Settlers of Catan. You just use whatever tokens you have.
And that's the principle behind the Cheap Ass Games company.
Yeah.
It was you provide the dice or the cards or the little mini figures that you move around. We'll provide the rules and as little else is what's needed. And with that, we'll provide you a good game, a fun game, low price.
Yep. I like that. Yeah.
And honestly, I do appreciate that as a nice way of getting you a good game for cheap. Chances are, if you're playing games, you'll probably have the pieces. Just raid your set for them there and put them back when you're done.
Yep.
And so I can dig that. I can see why they don't have any cheap ass games at the con.
Man, just with Lego, you could pretty much do anything.
That's true.
You got your figures, you got your terrain, you've got your houses.
Yeah, we saw some pretty cool Lego exhibits.
Oh yeah.
And they had the same race car fight thing. We didn't get a chance to play that. But that one looked fun, and apparently they're getting a chance to put it into like a production as a real set of rules that you just make up with your own thing. I think and make your own little race car track and decide where you are and how detailed you want your little figures.
Neat.
So congratulations on them if that is exactly what they have been doing, and they do manage to get it done.
So there's so much more we could talk about GottaCon, because a lot happened there. But I think we're running out of time for today, so I guess we should just kind of get some final thoughts.
Oh my goodness! We didn't even talk on the silent auction and the fun stuff there.
You didn't actually win anything this year, though.
I won 2 out of 3,
okay.
But now I'm thinking, did I have an actual bid on that 4th one? Did I win 3 out of 4? But I don't think so.
This is why you should sleep during game conventions.
Well, that's the thing is they had to go with a different style than what they originally wanted. Is they go through everything, get your name and what your bid was, and then they just put it into like a...
Oh, and you had, like we mentioned at the top of this podcast, you had the wrong name.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I put my wrong name there, so if, anyone says, okay, prove that you're this person, I'd hold up my con badge and show, okay, yeah. And it's like, oh, sorry, my name's actually Ryan, but look for Brian Kirkby. He's like, are you stealing your brother's stuff? I'm like, no.
So it's a nice, refreshing change of pace that they got your last name right, but first name wrong.
Well, they didn't even get my last name right the first time.
Yeah, still, by the end of it, the fact that Kirkby was spelled right, not Kirby.
Although we did have somebody stop me and ask, is that Kirby there? And I'm like, no, it's Kirkby. No one sees a second K, but thanks.
No one ever sees a second K.
It's like it's invisible.
Yeah. But yes, it was a great thing. I had much more fun this year having like a dedicated sideman for this and that with my brothers, Jason and Adam. As opposed to I did enjoy last year, just free flowing it, going back and forth wherever I wanted.
Being a floater.
I kind of wish I had more money. It would have been nice to have put in that other bid. I am happy to see how many other people were bidding on the Choose Your Own Adventure books this year. They had a stack of 7 again. I put my $5 bid in there, and I come back, after I'm doing the once around in the room, already outbid. As opposed to last year when somebody bid, oh no, this is much underneath the minimum bid, so I put the minimum bid, so and no one else bid. I got the 7 books for $5. And it's just like, well, yay, I win, but it's like there was no fight for it. Why isn't anyone fighting for these wonderful books? And so it was nice to see the fight for the books. It was nice to see the price go up and see that they were in demand, and that made me happy, even if I didn't win.
I kind of wish I had a little bit more money to play with and a bit more experience in Magic cards, because they had a giant old tub of Magic cards that, you know what?
Starter bid $5, but by the time we got around to the second pass, it was up to $75, and last I saw it was at $95.
And we got a little bit of information on what was in there, and potentially could have sold for over $400 if you knew what you were doing and you knew where to sell it, and you know how much the cards were. And I just don't want to put that time and effort into it. But if anyone's so inclined, check that out at the silent auction. It's like you don't know what's going to be in there.
Yeah, when I was waiting in line for the doors to open and see what I want and collect, there was I was behind a 4-pack. I'll call them gray hairs. They were the more mature group of miniature guys.
Old fogies.
Well, that's the thing is they weren't old fogies. They were still quite vibrant, and aware.
Yeah,
I was able
what
to have
say when people are old.
Great boxes.
Well, I'll call them silver hairs. I mean, they were mature. They'd been around. They'd been gaming for a long time.
Okay.
And what they decided to do is elders. Oh hey look, they've got miniatures here.
Older than me.
Well,
You're elders. Yep.
They were probably gaming, before I was out of diapers in some sense.
Yeah.
So they are mature.
Think what they would call you.
Whippersnapper.
Kid.
Whippersnapper. But they were looking for minis that they would effectively pool their resources together and get like this. Stormtrooper minis for the arachnids, the bugs, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if we ever want to fight bugs in any of our war games, we can just pick up some of these and then just use them whenever to be a stand-in, so they don't have to look exactly like it. But they're pre-painted and they're the bugs. So they made the bids and then they collected as a group, and that was kind of nice to see the pooled resources for a dedicated gaming group. Oh, yeah. That made me happy to see too. So once again, it turns out the silent auction was my favorite thing, although for different reasons this year.
I would like to see the layout a bit better. It was sometimes they had like stuff hidden under stuff, so I had to be like, oh, what's this thing? Okay, how much is the minimum bid on this?
And that's what caused the problem, why they were so late in opening their doors. was people were moving stuff around, and so they wound up losing some of those papers. It got misplaced, so they had to hunt, like, where is the paper for this? Where is it? Why is it over here? It's crumpled on the floor over there. You know, and
if you're going to get some unscrupulous people who are like, I'm going to put my last bid here and crumple, toss.
Maybe.
You know, and
stack it underneath this stuff here.
Yeah, but if you have it well laid out with enough room for it, and it was actually spilling out of the room that it was in, yeah, it probably could have gone a lot smoother.
I think maybe next year they
Probably
may
just
do better with
space.
a shelf-based system in some parts rather than just on a table.
Yeah, I'd agree.
But by and large, I loved every action about it, everything that was going on there this year, and it's nice to see them expand out. So yeah.
I had a bit of trouble getting to everything I wanted to get to because I wanted to. I had two main things I wanted to do. I wanted to go as many panels as possible and play as many games as possible. But often I would find myself getting out of a panel and having like three hours before the next thing I had to do. But the games had already started, so they were staggered somehow the wrong way. And I think it's just the accident of scheduling, but it didn't sync up for me in particular. So, I mean, that's me being selfish, I guess, because they have their own reasons for their schedules. But,
well, I suppose it works the same as like any post-secondary thing where you're trying to get your courses all in order.
Yeah,
it's like, nothing matches.
Yeah.
Why does it not meet my schedule?
Yeah. But a lot of the panels are going to be uploaded as podcasts. I might as well give a shout out to Jules Sherrod and Jules' program Geeky Pleasures with Jules Sherrod. He's another podcaster from Victoria, BC. And you can check Jules out. Follow her on Twitter, Geeky Jules. Follow me on Twitter, Spaceboot1, Spaceboot1 on Twitter. Yeah.
But mind you, that is where the board game areas come in. There's the free rent-a-board game sort of thing. You find a few other people, that are willing to do that. You got 3 hours to spare, play a board game. Hey, now you've only got an hour to spare. You can get yourself a drink of water, use the bathroom, go to your next thing. So
yeah, that works. Yeah.
So that free time board game thing is a real nice way of learning something new, and meeting friends, having fun. And we almost got a fourth person in. Technically, we were using the 3-player map for Small World, so it wasn't going to be really comfortable to work that way. But if we had started a little bit later, we could have gotten a fourth who just seen it and wanted to join in. But we were already in on the game, so.
I'll mention too, sometimes it's difficult. Like I don't think of myself as a super shy guy, but sometimes it is difficult to just approach a table and say, "Hey, what are you guys doing? Can I join in?" Like I found that a little bit. I don't know.
I find the right sig can often help to get you in there. It's like,
yeah, you
I've
open
heard
with
some
a
good things about that.
Good one-liner.
Do you guys mind if I watch for a little bit, or if you haven't started, do you mind if I join in, sort of thing? Because I'd really like to give this a try, and that way you come from an interesting position. And more people are a little bit more inclined to see you in a better light than just saying, "Oh, hey, can I play, guys?" Where you might sound like, the obnoxious younger brother.
Yeah, you don't... Yeah.
Hey, wait, what?
Can I play that?
I want to play too. It's like, no, it's a 2-player game. There's no room for a third person.
But it says on the side of the box, slam the door.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's hard to know, too, like, who to talk to because I've seen a couple of the people who I've seen a couple of times now, and they're more involved in the convention, like the standard action people and stuff, and people like that. So that can be a little bit, I don't know, awkward because you want to say hi and talk, but they're going to be busy and they have places to be. And
they need to have fun too.
Yeah.
So that's the whole social aspect of the convention is a little hard to navigate, and I think that's especially relevant for gaming, for example, because it has a very large component of people who pick up gaming because of that awkwardness. But I guess that's another topic for another podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is I suppose the convention kind of inverts things. Normally outside you fall in together as a group because you're not into anything else, whereas in the convention, it works the other way.
Yeah.
So. In some aspects. But yeah, I put a pin in that topic for another day.
Yeah, save that. Okay.
But so I suppose we can't use a thumbs up, but I get if there's like...
How many dwarfs out of 13?
I give it all 13 dwarfs plus the Hobbit and the Wizard. It was a great con. I wish I didn't need
dwarves
to
out of
sleep
13?
or actually spend money.
I thought there were only 7 dwarves.
Well, this is a hypothetical universe in which there are 13 dwarves in the entire universe.
With bonuses for, halfling and wizard for special stuff.
For my first...
I'm going to say Adam is the wizard and
For
you're
my
the
first
halfling.
one, for my first GottaCon, I would give it probably, I'd say, 2.5 thumbs up out of 3.
2.5 thumbs up out of 3. Oh, okay.
That's painful.
Yeah.
Or are you just saying something about your third thumb and its size?
Okay, we
No,
don't need to
I was actually thinking more like Zaphod Beeblebrox. But anyways, yeah. In conclusion, I would say, I really like GottaCon. Julius Caesar, cool name, and rest in peace, Harold Ramis.
All right, well, that's been The Simulationist. Join us again next week when we do this all over again.
Find us on Facebook. Find us on...
Yes, send us messages. We have an email address, thesimulationist@gmail.com. Leave little comments in little boxes that you find on your computer screen, like in Facebook, where it has a little box that says, write a comment here, or how do you feel about this podcast, on our Facebook page.
Leave a comment over on the YouTube for our stuff.
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. There's going to be some more content going up on the YouTube channel, too. We played a game, and that's going to be uploaded on there. It's just audio like this is right now. If you're listening to this on YouTube, same deal, just you'll see a nice fancy picture. Not that fancy, probably just a plain.
Well, I
picture.
suppose if you want, we could take
Average
photos
picture.
of the rooms, as they enter in, and then we could, just put that in at the appropriate time if you want to try.
Okay, we could. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Might be an option.
And
We'll
what
edit
else?
this out. You'll have never heard it.
I'll leave it in. Well, this podcast is long enough already. There is a blog page too, which has a box for comments, so comment there. And there's also iTunes reviews that you can leave. So leave a review for us on iTunes. Say anything you like. Doesn't have to be 5 stars. Doesn't have to be 4. Well, as many as you feel like.
As many stars as you feel like giving.
Remember,
and if you can't figure any of that out, just write it on just a loose leaf bit of paper, fold it up, leave it somewhere, and hopefully it will get to us.
But remember, even Captain America's shield only has 1 star. So we could take 1 star as not necessarily a bad thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good thought.
That's a nice wise thought, man. Boom, blew your mind.
Stars?
I don't think you can. On iTunes, I think the review, there might be a half a star. I don't know.
Ouch.
And Amazon has half stars, doesn't it? Yeah, I think it
Burn.
does. But I'm not sure if iTunes does.
But yes, get a hold of us somehow, some way.
Think your comments as hard as you can. We will get them.
Yes, send them telepathically. Yeah.
If you got the ability, give it a shot.